as their protector rather than an equal member of their community, akin to the 1800s. It does not trade, does not advance, and does not have any personal freedoms. Instead, it is either summoned into existence by the villagers or players, and expected to sacrifice itself for their safety, making it more of a tool than a participant in social order. This is an indicator that physical strength itself isn't necessarily a condition that influences your rank in the hierarchy. But the problem doesn't seem to lie with the villagers themselves as much as it does with the resources they have at their disposal. Most villagers, with the exception of the nitwit who is a pathetic free rider, are fully capable of taking on different professions, at least at the novice level. While this usually requires human intervention to assign them to a workstation, it highlights that their hierarchy isn't necessarily based on intelligence or inherent ability. Instead, it's dictated by access to wealth and resources. Villagers in desirable professions only hold their higher status because they have access to the right tools, not because they're inherently superior. All a peasant villager needs is a single book,
go
after
import
which
some
his
of our
third eye opens
shit.
up and he becomes a literal genius, publishing works of art such as Fiery Aspect, the third rendition of Fortune, or if particularly
Surprisingly,
gifted,
this
The Man
list
That
isn't
Dig,
running
true
the
works of
thingy,
art.
so
And in that
kinda
sense,
wanna
this hierarchy isn't so
do a
different
match
from
with
our
this.
own
Oh, because
world.
I
People born
already
into wealthy
edited it.
nations or privileged families inherently have more opportunities to succeed, while those born in poorer countries or disadvantaged conditions often struggle to climb the
Mermail
social
already
and economic
runs
ladder.
deep
While
sea,
villagers have an intricate social and
minstrel
economic
and
structure,
deep
they are
sea
not the only
prima
ones bound by
donna,
a
which
hierarchical system. Villagers
are
that
good
are
enough,
estranged
I
villagers
suppose.
who formed violent gangs also have a clear internal ranking, though their structure isn't as immediately obvious as that of their tan-colored counterparts. Instead of professions and experience levels, their hierarchy is determined by their roles in raids, outposts, and patrols. The most basic illager unit is the pillager, which makes sense considering they are the ones stationed at outposts. The very existence of pillager outposts suggests a surveillance system, likely monitoring nearby villages, gathering intelligence, and perhaps relaying it to the higher ranks within woodland mansions. Where have I seen this one before? Given that these outposts house only pillagers, it's reasonable to assume that pillagers are at the bottom of the chain of command. Their role as a frontline soldier reinforces this idea. They make up the majority of patrols, lead the early waves of raids, and are often the first to die in battle. Only when their attacks fail do higher-ranking illagers step in, meaning the pillagers are essentially worthless foot soldiers. Vindicators, on the other hand, seem to hold a slightly higher position. Vindicators wield axes and only appear in later raid waves, implying that they are considered slightly more valuable assets, and are deployed when reinforcements are needed. Witches also join raids, but they don't seem to directly be part of the hierarchy. Instead, they appear to be mercenaries, serving a support role rather than following the same command structure as the other illagers. At the top of the visible chain of command is the evoker. They only appear in the final waves of the raid, which alone suggests that they are among the most powerful of the illagers. More importantly, they are the only ones with the ability to summon vexes, which appear to serve them exclusively. The connection between vexes and allies raises the possibility that vexes are actually corrupted allies, forcibly converted into servants of the evokers. This further highlights the evoker's authority, as they are the only ones capable of controlling this particular entity. But the chain of command doesn't stop there. Some illagers wear those goofy banners on their heads during raids, patrols, and around outposts, marking them as captains. These captains seem to have leadership roles within their local unit, and their death have direct consequences. When a player kills one, it triggers a raid upon entering a village, suggesting that their elimination is enough to signal an emergency response from the
Burns in a
CCP
bad
headquarters
spot right
about
now.
the imminent threat of a violent uprising. This reinforces the idea that pillagers aren't entirely static in their position. Some can be promoted to captains or even specialize in certain roles, such as Ravager Riders. Instead of a strictly linear hierarchy, illagers seem to have a more dynamic system, where advancement can take different forms, with some rising through the combat ranks while others take on leadership roles. However, this raises a contradiction. If evokers are at the top of the command structure, why do they participate in raids at all? In most hierarchical military structures, the highest ranking figures don't fight on the front lines. They oversee operations from a distance. So if evokers aren't the true leaders of the illagers, then who is? One possible answer lies in the mob that exists in the game but never spawns naturally, the Illusioner. Originally intended as part of the Illager faction, the Illusioner possesses abilities that set it apart from the rest. It doesn't wield brute strength like the Vindicator or summon creatures like the Evoker, but instead relies on deception and magic, capable of creating duplicates of itself and turning invisible. If it was meant to be the true leader of the Illagers, it would make sense for it to remain hidden, orchestrating raids and attacks from behind the scenes, while letting the Evokers take the visible role of high command. Whether the Illusioner was scrapped or simply left undiscovered within the world of Minecraft, its absence leaves a gap in the illager hierarchy, one that suggests there may be an unseen force guiding them from the shadows. If the illager represents an organized militaristic hierarchy built on raids and conquest, the piglins embody a completely different kind of power structure, one driven by wealth, trade, and brute strength. Unlike the illagers, whose hierarchy revolves around combat roles and leadership ranks, piglins follow a hybrid system. At first glance, piglins don't appear to have a strict chain of command. They function as a society rather than an army, with each member seemingly acting in their own self-interest. Yet despite their chaotic nature, there is a clear distinction between regular piglins and piglin brutes. Regular piglins are traders and scavengers, willing to engage in barter as long as gold is involved. Their entire social order seems to be centered around gold, with their aggression toward non-gold-wearing players suggesting that wealth dictates respect in their world. Those who possess gold, whether piglins or outsiders, are treated with a degree of civility, while those without it are seen as enemies. But piglin brutes do not share this behavior. Unlike regular piglins, they have no interest in trading.
I'm still not too sure about this Exo-Sister Ryziel
This suggests that piglin brutes are not just stronger
I should try it
piglins,
out.
but an entirely separate class within piglin society. While regular piglins are opportunistic, brutes enforce the safety of bastions. If piglins operate as a society of merchants and scavengers, then piglin brutes are the ruling class's private guards, ensuring that their hoarded wealth remains untouched. This divide implies that piglin society, unlike the illagers, isn't structured around leadership and military ranks, but rather around access to resources and the power to protect them. Regular piglins may chase after gold and trade for better loot, but it's the brutes who have the true authority, standing as the final barrier between outsiders and the vast fortunes hidden within their bastion. In that sense, piglin hierarchy isn't just about who fights and who doesn't. It's about who controls the gold, who protects it, and who is left scrambling for whatever scraps remain. If the piglins are a society built around wealth and the illagers operate as a militaristic order, then the guardians and elder guardians represent a completely different kind of hierarchy, one based on preservation and defense. Unlike piglins or illagers who have motivations that can be traced back to concepts like conquest or trade, guardians don't seem to have any goal other than to protect something that isn't even theirs. They serve as the sole protector of the ocean monuments, but there's no indication that they built these structures. This raises the question, who or what are they truly guarding? The ocean monuments house large quantities of gold, much like the piglin bastions, but the guardians themselves have no use for it. Unlike piglins who are actively drawn to wealth or illagers who seek to pillage and conquer, guardians seem to exist purely to keep others away. Their entire behavior revolves around one thing: defense. They attack any intruders on sight using ranged attacks that make them even more difficult to approach. And unlike piglins or illagers, they never leave their posts. Even when the treasure they protect is taken, they remain in place as if nothing has changed. Yet even among guardians, there is a clear hierarchy. The elder guardians stand above the rest, larger, stronger, and capable of inflicting mining fatigue. If the guardians are soldiers, then the elder guardians are the generals, placed in key positions to ensure that the monument remains secure. But much like their subordinates, elder guardians don't seem to hold any personal stake in what they guard. Their role is not one of leadership, but of higher authority and defense, making them less of a ruling class and more of an advanced security system. This lack of clear leadership suggests that guardian society, if it can even be called that, doesn't function like the structured ranks of illagers or the wealth-driven power of piglins. Instead, it operates more like an automated defense system, an ancient system that exists solely to protect a treasure that has long lost its original owners. If anything, the guardians and elder guardians aren't rulers or soldiers in the traditional sense. They are relics of a forgotten past. But here's the thing: while some mobs have clear hierarchies like the villagers, illagers, piglins, or guardians, there are a few that don't exactly fit the mold. They don't have obvious ranks, but they still play by their own rules, and honestly, that might as well make them even more interesting to explore. The Wither is a unique case because it doesn't have a natural place in the world. It must be summoned, yet Wither skeletons are already present in nether fortresses. This raises the question: are Wither skeletons simply remnants of a past hierarchy, waiting for a Wither to lead them again? Or is the Wither itself just a mindless force of nature, lacking the leadership qualities of something like an Elder Guardian or an Evoker? If the player creates the Wither, does that make them its ruler, or are they merely unleashing something beyond their control? Endermen are among the most puzzling creatures in Minecraft, but they do seem to follow a loose hierarchical structure. They wander freely in the overworld, nether, and the end, but in the end, they appear to assemble around the Ender Dragon, almost as if they recognize its authority. They don't directly serve it in the same way illagers and piglins seem to do, but they don't attack the Ender Dragon, at least as long as they're not bothered, and their behavior suggests a connection. Is the Ender Dragon their ruler, or is it simply another force in their world that they acknowledge but don't interfere with, almost as if they learn to live with it? If anything, the player might be the one disrupting whatever hierarchy already exists in the end. The Warden presents a different kind kind of hierarchy. One based not on leadership or social order, but on sheer dominance. It doesn't answer to anyone except the Skull. Its only objective is defending the Deep Dark. The Warden operates as an enforcer with no clear master. If it has no leader, why does it exist at all? Well, while it doesn't seem to follow any one entity, it does answer to the calls of the Skulk. The Warden only appears when the Skulk detects a threat nearby, suggesting that its role might be to serve the interest of the Skulk itself. So, could the Warden be part of a lost civilization's defense system, much akin to that of the Ocean Monument? Or is it something even more ancient, standing as the last protector of a forgotten order that was once bound to the will of the Skulk? As for us, the player, we've got the ability to mess with all of this. We can take down these mobs, disrupt their systems, or even be part of them, whether it's in the chaos of the Wither's destruction or the chilling dominance of the Warden. So are we at the top of the hierarchy, or are we just another force causing things to fall apart? Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to subscribe not to miss out on future stuff. See ya!
I don't have any level 7s. This list. Or rank 7s, rather. Isn't that the whole point of bringing Fearsome Firesome? Or Fearsome Fire Blast? Feels like we're better off with this for, like, hand rips and stuff. That card does nothing. Disabling a single zone is not gonna matter more often than not. It arguably could, but it never will. Big Eye's really the only one that's worth going for. What a pile.
Konami looked at all of the pendulum monsters in Backlash and thought, this isn't messy enough. I can make them even more convoluted. The main deck pendulum fairies have passive effects that provide you with some kind of advantage, with the caveat that you only get the advantage while you have an odd or even pendulum monster scale. Thankfully, the odd cards enable your odd scale effects, and the even cards enable your even scale effects. If you're unfamiliar with these cards, you might be thinking something like, that's cool, what's the point? Well, we're not done yet. The archetype field spell, Sulfur Harmonia, lets you adjust the scales of your scaled pendulums. This can help you meet level thresholds for pendulum summoning, but does make benefiting from your even/odd pendulum passives a little inconvenient. Mi Sulfur Elitia is a level 6 scale 6 pendulum fairy that protects you from taking battle damage from Sulfur combat. But if you use Sulfur Harmonia to nudge her scale down to 5 or up to 7, you lose that protection for the extent that her scale is adjusted. Your Link, Grand Sulfur monster, Musica, and Kulia require both even and odd scales to maximize their effects. And the archetype trap Sulfur Musica has different effects based off the configuration of even odd scales that you control. And if all of this wasn't enough reading, Sulfur Scale and Sulfur Symphony have multi-part effects that activate in sequence based on the quantity of pendulum monsters you have with different names in different locations. Pendulum archetypes are often unfriendly to learn for new players. They might look cute, but Sulfur are the weaponized, distilled form of exactly that. 2017's Code of the Duelist set introduced the Formula Athletes, an archetype of mostly win attribute machine monsters. Despite their car racing theme, they weren't fast enough to leave an impact on the competitive scene, and barely squeak into the 6th place on this list. The FA archetype is theoretically all about speed, which makes its shortcomings very ironic. The deck takes too long to come online. The idea behind FAs is that their levels represent how fast their car is going, with their stats increasing with each level. Above a certain level threshold, many FA monsters gain strong passive effects. Take FA Hang On Mach for example. This level 4 wind machine with base 0 attack gains 300 attack points for each level, meaning it will hit the field with 1200 attack. It gains a level with each activation of an FA spell or trap, and once it's above level 7, it's also a one-sided macrocosmos, banishing any card that would have gone to your opponent's graveyard. FA Hang On Mach is also unaffected by effects activated by monsters your opponent controls with a level or rank lower than its own, making a level 7 plus Hang On Mach a serious problem. If only that didn't take one normal summon and no less than 3 spells or traps to get to that point. That's actually why FAs were totally broken in Duel Links for a time. The level augmentation skill lets you make the level of a monster on field the sum of its own plus the level of a card in your hand, leading to the infamous Car Lord strategies utilizing high-level draw power card Dark Lord Ixchel to supercharge your FA Hingon Mach to present a bonkers end board off of just one normal summon, though an emergency ban would add more qualifiers to level changing skills. It was interesting to see just how strong FA strategies could be with a rolling start. The continuous spell FA Winners gives the Formula athletes an alternative win condition based off of banishing FA field spells with different names after your high-level FA monsters win a battle and inflict battle damage. But winning the life point race the old-fashioned way is usually just a lot easier. Their Link 2, FA Shining Star GT, uses athlete counters to mark speed instead of levels, and can trade a counter to negate once per turn. But these originally TCG-exclusive racers still struggle to pull ahead. And that's the combination of inventive mechanics and sad irony in regard to their performance that got them middle of the pack position at number 6. BES stands for Bacterian Empire Ship, which is another way of saying number 5 on this list. They're a bunch of high-level machines with various attributes that have some cool trivia going for them, and not much else. They begin with BES Big Core, a level 6 Dark Machine with 2300 attack and 1100 defense, which was introduced in the 2004 set Rise of Destiny. Most recently reprinted as a common in 2017's OTS Tournament Pack 4. The original Big Core couldn't be destroyed by battle, but had to remove a counter from itself immediately after a battle. If these conditions were unable to be met, BES Big Core would overheat and explode. On normal summon, BES Big Core gains 3 counters, which guarantees you 3 Big Core battles, assuming you don't lose your card to other means. 2005 Cybernetic Revolution and Elemental Energy sets added BES Crystal Core, BES Tetran, and the continuous spell Boss Rush, which gave the spaceship archetype its first sense of group identity. At cost of locking yourself out of normal summon or setting, Boss Rush lets you special summon BS monsters from your deck during the end phase of a turn when another BS monster was destroyed on field. You're pretty much guaranteed to see these special summons too, since all 3 BES options available in 2005 only gained counters on normal summon. Boss Rush might have been good for deploying these ships, but they weren't going to hang around long, which is honestly pretty much what the card advertised. This is a boss rush. Things are going to be moving quickly. Future BES ships like Big Core Marks 2 and 3 and BES Blaster Cannon Core iterated on earlier models by gaining counters on special summon. And the archetype finally got a little help when the 2017 set Maximum Crisis gave them a field spell in BEF Zelos. The field spell did a ton of work for the Bacterium Empire by granting their Space Navy 500 extra attack and defense points, plus protection from targeted and destruction by card effects, plus an extra counter on summon. They granted all of these passive benefits while also searching a copy of Boss Rush on activation, and allowed you to special summon a BES monster from hand once per turn. But as much as BEF Zelos accomplished to make the BES ships vaguely resemble something playable, it couldn't quite achieve that goal. What it did do was make the Bacterian Empire ships just enough of a coherent archetype to land a spot on this list. But what exactly is the Bacterian Empire? What's the deal with these guys? They actually take inspiration from Konami's side-scrolling space shooter franchise, Gradius. Remember all those low-level spaceships with cool names like Lord British Space Fighter, Victory Viper XX03, Falcon B, Jade Knight, and well, Gradius? They're all from the Gradius series. And the BES cores are the enemy ships they fight, which is where Boss Rush comes from. But for as cool as this inspiration is, Konami did not play favoritism with cross-referencing franchises, leaving the BES Big Core stranded in space as a strange archetype whose playstyle is at odds with the mechanics of what their cards imply. While the counter-based battle immunity suggests these cards are meant to stick around, without Boss Rush, they don't have a lot going on. And that card only works well with about half of the BES line. Maybe the guys over the A-Team Track Disposal unit can take a break from their Parodius antics to tinker with the BES machinery. Aligning itself with the number 4 spot on this list, we have the Allies of Justice. This line of dark attribute machines officially become part of the TCG with the release of 2009's Hidden Arsenal set, which contained many cards from Konami's dual terminal arcade world. One of the unifying threads of the Allies of Justice are their anti-like tendencies. Many of the Ally of Justice carry effects that activate in response to or are enabled by light attribute monsters controlled by your opponent. Ally of Justice Grodholk gains 200 attack and defense when it battles a light monster. Ally of Justice Cosmic Gateway can be special summoned from hand if the other side of the field has 2 or more monsters and at least one of them is light. Ally of Justice Quarantine is a floodgate preventing both players from special summoning the light attribute. But light monsters aren't the only target of the Ally of Justice. Some of their numbers are designed to counter flip effect strategies, like Ally of Justice Field Marshal, who lets you draw a card after it destroys a set monster by battle. And Ally of Justice Enemy Catcher, who can take control of an opponent's set monster on summon and keep it until the end of the turn. But why focus on light attribute and flips? Well, that's because in the lore of the dual terminal world, the Allies of Justice were developed to counter the worms, an archetype of alien invaders who share a light attribute and love to flip. According to lore, the various elemental tribes populating the dual terminal world joined together in the face of this new existential threat, pooling their resources to construct anti-light, anti-flip machines. As the war drew on, the Allies of Justice discovered the Gen X. These powerful, voiceless machines were quietly helping the planet by removing pollution from waters and doing other cool stuff. But the AOJ were like, come on guys, the worms are attacking, lock in, and started reverse engineering Gen X technology to develop stronger weapons of war. The Mist Valley tribe were a little miffed at this, and the newly awakened Fabled played on their doubts, culminating in the fracture of the AOJ. Using new Gen X technology, the remaining members of the Allies of Justice were able to further the development of their anti-light machines by incorporating aspects of the worms themselves, resulting in designs that married the biological with the inorganic. Ultimately, the final battle between the huge mega worm, Worm Zero, and the pinnacle of AOG engineering, Ally of Justice Decisive Armor, ended with the defeat of the worms. Unfortunately, the world was immediately thrown back into peril during the invasion of the Fabled, with even more planet-endangering factors coming down the pipeline. But that's for another video on another day. There's really only one more question to ask about the Allies of Justice. Are any of them good? And actually, yeah. Let's talk about Ally of Justice Cataster. This level 5 Dark Machine Synchro monster with 2200 attack was one of the earliest Ally of Justice cards to release as part of the Dual Terminal second wave of preview cards several months before the November 2009 release of Hidden Arsenal. Where other of Ally of Justice effects were far too narrow to find use, Ally of Justice Cataster had a very strong and very general effect that made it a staple in almost any deck capable of tuning into a level 5. When Ally of Justice Cataster engages battles, it automatically destroys any non-dark monster at the start of the damage step. Now, while Dark might be one of the game's historically stronger attributes, being able to safely attack into and clear any non-dark attribute monster was a huge way of clearing threats, like Blackluster Soldier Envoy at the beginning and a million other cards. But one good card doesn't make a good archetype, especially when said card only stands out by deviating from the core strategy. The Allies of Justice are light hard counters, and Ally of Justice Cataster is good because it isn't. And haunting this list at number 3, we have the Ghost Tricks. This line of spectral, playful, dark attribute creatures debuted in the 2013 set Shadow Specters. They're fiend, zombies, fairies, and spellcasters, and they're really not so scary, both in the sense that they're kind of cute and also aren't a competitive threat. Befitting their Halloween theme, the Ghost Tricks are all about hitting you with a jump scare by flipping themselves face up, and the scares continue because they're also about frightening your opponent into flipping themselves face down. But as silly and fun as that is, it's not really a huge threat to your opponent's life points. And their menace is further distilled by an unfortunate shared effect that plagues all of their main deck monsters. If you don't already control a Ghost Trick, you can't normal summon a Ghost Trick. While they do have workarounds like Ghost Trick Shot and Ghost Trick Festival, a Ghost Trick like one that can use a set Ghost Trick as material, these options don't really bring the strategy up to speed so much as make it a baseline playable archetype. The level 1 Fiends are reactive hand traps, the level 2 Spellcasters have their effects mostly related to battle position control and some consistency quirks, the level 3 Zombies have beneficial effects a la Mill, Burn, Surge, Attack Boost, etc. And Ghost Trick Siren is a level 4 fairy capable of milling out your own deck, searching, and also booking your opponent. Their Extra Deck Xyz monsters generally follow the same rank and typing convention. They have plenty of traps and field spells, but are still lacking in competitive placements. And that's just because building your archetype on the idea that monsters are all scared of getting normal summoned is a difficult proposition. They have a unique playstyle and fun art, but were designed to struggle, and they do. Except in Duel Links, where they got a skill that totally bypassed every Ghost Trick downside. Ghost Trick Invitation is an archive skill usable by every character that lets you reveal either Ghost Trick Witch, a Ghost Trick level 1, or a Ghost Trick field spell to set a Ghost Trick monster from deck and mill a Ghost Trick spell or trap. This set monster can be flipped on the same turn, opening up your Ghost Trick normal summons and giving you a turn 1 flip activation. This skill locked you out of any normal or special summoning non-Ghost Tricks with the exception of the extra deck, but that didn't matter. By circumventing every problem Ghost Tricks faced in a TCG, Duel Links made these cute little spirits actually scary. Bannably scary, in fact. Still, any archetype can be good if you magically address every issue with a skill, and the Ghost Tricks, as cool as they are, rank as one of Konami's stranger archetypes to underperform competitively. Have you ever started a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And then felt like you should maybe do anything else? Play another game maybe? That's exactly what this list runner-up archetype is for. The Valence take number 2. An archetype introduced in 2022's Tactical Master set, the Valence mostly consists of water attribute spellcasters and fire attribute machine pendulum monsters. The strategy of the Valence is to basically turn your game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Into a different game, the game of Valence. All of the Valence main deck monsters can special summon themselves and have an effect that activates on special summon, but before you get them as a monster, you must first scale them, and then activate their pendulum scale effect, allowing them to move up their column to the corresponding right or leftmost unoccupied main monster zone. They're also all scale 1 by the way, so you won't be conducting a pendulum summon off the bat without breaking into the Valence extra deck or running another pendulum card. As mentioned, they all have effects that activate on special summon, but they also have effects that activate when they shift main monster zones. This can be accomplished using the effects of the Valence cards, like Nezuki the Valence Ninja and Valence Buster Baron, and also Senate Switch, a continuous spell from almost 20 years ago that can actually be searched by Valence Wars, the place of beginning. Additionally, the Scale 10 Valence Fusion Pendulum monster Valence Genesis Grand Duke can be brought out of the extra deck by tributing a high-level Valence monster in a main monster zone in the extra monster zone column. That's a lot of words to explain that if you summon Valence Dominator Duke with its own effect and then use one of your many tools to move it over one more zone, your Valence High Pendulums can enter play. And Arctos 12, the Valence Chronoclasm, is almost as easy to cheat out, requiring only the contact fusion of 2 high-level Valence monsters. Now, seems like a good time to bring up that making an archetype very complicated doesn't necessarily make it very good. And actually, things get a bit more complicated. The Valence field spells, Valence World Shinra Bansho and Valence World Koenig Wizen, come as a pair. To activate one to your side of the field, you must also place its partner from your deck to your opponent's side of the field. This is great for turning off infinite impermanence in your opponent's hand during combos on turn 1, and also great for your Valence plays. Together, these field spells rewrite the rules of Yu-Gi-Oh! Into a game where card placement is as important as cards in your hand. While your opponent controls an effect monster in a main monster zone in the same column as one of your monsters, you can use Koenig Wizen to push their monster back in line to their spell and trap card zone, destroying whatever card occupied the spot previously. Shinra Bansho provides some recovery by letting you bring one of your monsters in the spell and trap card zone forward to an empty main monster zone in the same column. Combined with the Valence Penchant for shifting zones, this provides the Valent player with both extension and non-traditional methods for breaking an opponent's board. Here's where things get even sillier. You don't play the game of Valence alone. You give your opponent a field spell and they can use it too, and also yours. Both players can activate the ignition effects of Shinra Bansho and Koenig Wizen, though only while both field spell zones are occupied. There's no denying that the Valence are a strange archetype, and it's also true that Yu-Gi-Oh's weirder group of cards are often some of the most interesting and fun to play. At the same time, the Valence haven't seen a great deal of general play outside of those on their same silly wavelength. They're capable of explosive combos, but are overly convoluted, and struggle with interruption, floodgates, and running significant non-engine as a result of that complication. And we're receiving a message from the great beyond. Nope, it's not an ad for HelloFresh. It's this list number 1 strangest struggling archetype, the Spirit Message. These cards first released in the 2003 set Labyrinth of Nightmare, and on release consisted of 1 continuous trap and 4 continuous spells. These were Destiny Board and the 4 Spirit Messages. During your opponent's end phase, Destiny Board's effect would resolve placing a Spirit Message card from your hand or deck to the spell and trap card zone. The Spirit Message would appear in sequence, starting with Spirit Message I, followed by Spirit Message N, followed by Spirit Message A, and concluding with Spirit Message L. When Destiny Board and the 4 Spirit Message cards are all placed on the field, you win the duel. This alternate win condition was already impossibly hard to achieve in 2003, and would only get worse over time. While the individual spirit messages weren't exactly dead in hand, since Destiny Board could place them from hand using its effect, they were effectively useless draws that you'd never want to see. And since Destiny Board required at least 4 of your opponent's end phases to finally win, chances were bad you were going to draw at least one of the spirit message spells, whose only effect is to specify that they can't be placed on the field, except by the effect of Destiny Board. And to make everything worse, Destiny Board strategies instantly lose to any form of removal. Since Destiny Board, the continuous trap, has a built-in self-destruct where if it or any of its spirit messages are removed from the field, all of them get destroyed together. Mystical Space Typhoon, for example, clobbers Destiny Board strategies completely. And another problem, because we clearly don't have enough. As you place more spirit messages, you run out of space to use your other spells and traps. Or worse, if you have any other spell and trap stuck on the field, you might not be able to place a spirit message at all, wasting precious enemy end phases. Destiny Board would remain one of the game's most ill-thought-out strategies for many years, until 2019's legendary duelist Immortal Destiny gave much-needed life support to the ghostly archetype. While the Spirit Message cards were used by Yami Bakura in the anime, another Bakura card from Labyrinth of Nightmare, the Dark Necrofear and Dark Spirit of the Silent, had no real connection to Destiny Board. Legendary duelist Immortal Destiny changed that with new support that drew faint lines between all of these Bakura cards. Dark Spirit of Banishment and Dark Spirit of Malice joined the Dark Spirit of the Silent, and had effects to support the level 8 Fiend monsters, letting them synergize with Dark Necrofear and the new Cursed Necrofear, who could revive itself from the graveyard after destruction by an opponent, destroying cards on their field equal to the number of face-up spell and trap cards you control with different names. This obviously plays nicely with the various spirit message cards all having different names. But the new field spell Dark Sanctuary was an even bigger boon to these wayward, talkative souls. This new field spell provided some stall power by forcing your opponent to flip a coin with every single attack. On tails, battle continued as normal, but on heads, Dark Sanctuary got to negate the attack and inflict battle damage equal to half the value of the attacking monster. Additionally, spirit messages that would be placed on the field by the effective Destiny Board could be summoned as normal monsters instead, but could neither attack nor prevent your opponent from attacking directly.
Damn, I
Dark
forgot
Sanctuary
about the double
did
damage
protect them
effect.
from all card effects except your own Destiny Board, and the new Spirit Message strat got even more consistent with Dark Spirit Mastery and Sentence of Doom. Mastery lets you search Destiny Board or a level 8 Fiend, and can banish itself from grave to recycle Spirit Message stranded in your hand in exchange for fresh draws. While Sentence of Doom lets you reclaim banished Fiends and also accelerated Spirit Message placements, treated as being placed by the effective Destiny Board. The new Bakura cards gave the Spirit Message archetype much needed flexibility, letting you advance the win condition faster and more consistently, while also giving you outs to abandon a doomed message for new draws. In the end, Spirit Message is a truly unique deck, which is a much kinder way of saying very strange. And of course, it doesn't really work. It remains more of a challenge to see if you can pull off a win in this way, rather than a cohesive strategy to help you see more wins. But true duelists play with the cards they like, and I'll pose the question, which is more memorable? The 11th time you came in 5th at locals playing whatever was good, or that time someone flipped a killer final combo, banishing your mind to the Shadow Realm forever. Something to think about. The spirit messages totally take the number 1 on this list. Alright, and that's the list. But there are other strange ways to play with redacted odds and success. So if I missed your favorite, or if you have ideas for future videos just like this one, please let us know down in the comments below.
That can still work. its name again? Ugh. I'm hungry. Good hand. I have the wrong number card. I need to read the cards. there a way we can force something out from our graveyard? Perhaps a spell? Let me read the cards first. This is kind of atrocious.